rain or shine. She's a part of the assembly line. She's making history, working for victory. Rosie, the riveter, keeps a sharp lookout for sabotage. Sitting up there on the fuselage, that little frail can do more than a male can do. Rosie, the riveter.
What you just heard was a 1943 song written by Red Evans and John Jacob Loeb and performed by James Kern K. Kaiser, called Rosie the Riveter. I'd like to tell you a little bit about this woman named Rosie. I should start by mentioning that Rosie was not one specific woman. She represented the 6 million women that entered the workforce during World War II in order to help the war effort. Rosie was used in the recruitment of some of these women to emphasize the need for women's help in fighting and winning the war. This picture is often associated with Rosie, and it is most likely the one that you have seen before. But it was not originally made to depict Rosie the Riveter. It was created by J. Howard Miller in 1942 for the Westinghouse Electric and Manufacturing Company, and displayed to Westinghouse employees only for a short period of time. This picture didn't actually become famous until the 1980s, when used by the feminist movement. Rosie's most significant depiction in art was actually painted by Norman Rockwell for the Saturday Evening Post's Memorial Day issue on May 29, 1943. Rockwell paints Rosie the Riveter eating her lunch, nonchalantly holding a riveting gun in her lap. And my favorite part, beneath Rosie's feet is Hitler's book Mein Kampf. Hitler disapproved of women's role in the U.S. war effort. He seemed to believe war production factories were not the place for a woman, but I'd argue that neither were concentration camps. Clearly, Hitler's opinions never stopped Rosie from contributing to the effort which sought to fight for democratic ideals. In addition to Rockwell's painting, Rosie was seen in other areas of popular culture, including the Broadway play Rosie the Riveter. There were also movies about women in the workforce in general, like Swing Shift Macy and Meet the People, starring Lucille Ball. Rosie was also depicted in popular promotional films starring famous actor Walter Pidgeon. Rose Will Monroe played this Rosie the Riveter in these popular promotional films. Monroe was a real-life Rosie who was a riveter of B-24 and B-49 bombers during World War II. Walter Pidgeon discovered her in an aircraft factory in Ypsilanti, Michigan in 1944. Because she starred in these films with him, many called her the real Rosie the Riveter. However, there were certainly other real-life Rosies. Another real-life Rosie, though not as well known as Monroe, was May Gray Bill. She worked as a riveter on a B-26 bomber at the Glenn L. Martin plant in Baltimore, Maryland. When asked what she liked best about her job, she answered, "I liked it all. It wasn't like work for me. It was almost like play. We had something accomplished when we were finished." Like many women, Gray Bill was laid off when the war ended in order to make room for men returning from war and because of the decrease in demand for war supplies. By 1944, women made up around 36% of the U.S. civilian workforce, as opposed to 27% only several years earlier. Though many women were still wives and mothers, they learned to do things only men had done before. Women were even better at some of these tasks than men had been. And as May Graybill told us, women loved the work. They worked in munitions plants, aircraft factories, and shipyards. And we cannot forget the 350,000 women who served in the armed services during World War II, whether at home or overseas. The contribution of all these women showed the willingness of Americans to rise to the challenge of doing everything they could to support the war effort. In this way, I see in Rosie an example of the patriotic spirit that every American should have during wartime and beyond. We should be willing to do whatever it takes to stand up for our loved ones, our country, and our democratic ideals, because, as Rosie reminds us, together we can do it.
Bubble day, bubble day, bubble dee dee leave it on that day. Rivet boy, rivet boy, rivet. Rosie, Rosie. Rosie, Rosie the Riveter on the assembly line.